Okay, cool. Hopefully now it's working. So welcome to the second episode of Level 3 Focus. My name is Ultra David. Thanks a lot for joining me. I hope you had a good time hanging out with James there. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different thing than James did. As with last week, James's show is for a little bit more of a new audience. Mine is for a little bit more of the kind of audience that wants to get more deeply involved with fighting games right now, and that's. And I'm happy to have everybody watch, and in fact, that would be good this time, because I'm going to be starting from sort of the basics. That is, I want to create some kind of like a rubric for talking about fighting game matches a little bit more effectively, because I just find that people have different terms for different things, and that can get kind of confusing. So I'd like to get around that if I can. It's just better to be able to talk about things more precisely and more easily, and for everybody to know, exactly what's going on. So I'm going to be using the terms that I'm talking about in this episode pretty much throughout the time that I'm going to be doing the show. So heads up. So what am I talking about precisely? Well, I want to identify 4 particular factors that I think are the factors that make up a fighting game match, that you need to understand both in order to watch a match and really to be able to enjoy it as much as possible. But in addition to that, that you need to know to be able to play as effectively as you can. And so those 4 factors, I think, are overall game strategy, and then the tactics that you use in furtherance of that strategy, and then the individual mix-ups that you use, and then execution is the 4th one. And that's kind of in descending order of importance. So if you don't have a general strategy, that is like an overall game plan of what you're going to be doing, like an idea in your head of what you need to do and what you need to do to get there, then you're just not going to go very far. I mean, that's not really going to beat almost anybody. After that, you need to have like a set of tools, a set of tactics to do whatever it is that you want to do. So this is the part where you kind of like you get to the place where you want to be. You do what it is that you want to do. So you have this idea of what you want to do, and then this is how you do it. When you're there, or well, really whenever, you also have to be mixing up the opponent. That is, getting your mind games straight, or making the right guesses, and knowing what the guesses that you want to make are, and that you want to force onto your opponent. And that's kind of 2 different sides of the mix-up thing. When you're engaged in a mix-up, it's not just like you're making the opponent guess. You have to guess a little bit too yourself. So that's another important side of things. And then, kind of last importance is execution. There is definitely a level of play where execution is the thing that separates people. That is to say, if you have execution, which pretty much means if you can do whatever it is that you want to do, then you're going to be better than somebody else who can't do it. But if you don't already have the game plan, if you don't already have the tactics, and if you don't already have the mix-ups, then that execution is kind of irrelevant. James was actually talking about this right at the end of his show. Somebody wrote in asking why it was that he lost when his combos were better than his opponents, than his execution, I should say, was better than his opponents. So why does that, why was he losing? Well, it's because he doesn't have one of those first 3 things. He doesn't have the right strategy, he doesn't have the right tactics, and he doesn't have the right mix-ups. So, a strategy that is like which situations you want to force your opponent into, and which situations you want to avoid yourself. These are kind of like or I should say, this is kind of a general view, but after this, we'll be looking at a particular match between a Zangief player, Maho Shoujo Zangitan, and a Dalsim player whose name is Buri Brio. It's just a match that I found online. I don't think that it's like a particular note, really. It's just kind of a random match. I happen to like Dalsim versus Zangief from both sides. I think it's a pretty interesting match, so that's why I'm going to be using it. So we're going to be bringing all these things into kind of like particular relief in a little bit. But still want to like nail down what I'm talking about overall. So when I'm talking about the tactics, these are your particular moves that you're going to be using, your particular uses of the game engine. It can be technologies like an option select, or a focus dash normal cancel if you're a Hakan player, or it can be some kind of like TAC glitch or whatever it is, something like that makes some use of the game to further whatever it is that you want to be doing. Particular setups in addition to that, to have individual setups to go to that once you're in a position really allow you to take advantage of that. And then the mix-ups, like I was saying, these are particular guesses. Those vary, of course, according to the character. Everybody has them. It's not true that there are mix-up characters and not mix-up characters. There are characters that depend on them more, of course, but everybody has to engage in these guesses at least a little bit. And then again, execution, just maximizing your damage, maximizing your stun, moving around as effectively as you can be, and really just kind of doing whatever it is that you want to do. So in this match, Maho Shoujo Zangitan, I'm just going to call him Zangitan, and Buri Brio, I'm just going to call him Buri. It's Zangief and Dalsum. And let me bring this up so you can see. I'm just going to let it play a little bit. Go over to the quick time. Blah. Oh, let me turn the music down. Cool. All right. So you should be watching it. I'm just going to let it run. It's not a very long match. It's only about a couple of minutes. And some of that is filler, so it's not really that big a deal. It's just 3 rounds. So you can get a kind of an idea of what I'm going to be talking about. Spacing is obviously gigantic in this matchup. If you're at particular ranges as Zangief, you don't have very good options. In fact, you have some pretty terrible options. And Dalsum has pretty awesome options at those same ranges. But if you're outside or inside of those ranges, things change entirely. It can be really good for you, or it can be really bad for you, depending really, really largely on spacing. And you have to have an idea of how to get to particular spaces and what to do when you're there. So Zangief gets in on the first round, and if Zangief gets Dalsum to the corner, that's a terrible look for Sim. That's 8-2, 9-1 kind of situation. That is to say, that's a situation where you should lose 8 or 9, 10 times out of 10, and that's actually what happened with Dalsum there. In this round, it's been a little bit more of a battle for who's up close, or I should say, who wants to be, or who is in the position that he wants to be in. When Gief has gotten close, he's done well. When it's far away, as you can see, Dalsum currently has the life lead. And meanwhile, they're doing all these particular things to take advantage of whatever situation they're in, or to get themselves out of whatever situation they're in. And those tools take the form of lots and lots of different things. And I'll talk about those in a little bit when this video ends. But in the meantime, just be thinking about what mix-ups are going on, not just from Zangief's point of view, but from Dalsum's point of view as well. And be thinking a little bit about whether these players are executing to whatever they want to do. And execution in this kind of case doesn't just necessarily mean combos. In fact, it mostly doesn't mean combos, because these two characters are not terribly combo heavy. They're really more about pressing particular buttons or specials in particular areas. Okay, so that was the match. Let me just come back to me real fast. So it's not, or I'm saying it is a match that really allows you to check out all the things that I'm talking about. It's very apparent what the two game plans are of each player. You can really see Zangief wants to get in. Dalsum does not want to let Zangief in. Their tools as well are very apparent. Zangief has all sorts of things like lariats and particular jump moves, and green hands. Sim has things like particular buttons both on the ground and in the air, and dashes and teleports and all this stuff. And they also have particular mix-ups. Zangief's are obvious. Once he gets close, it's going to be the kind of command grab versus attack sort of situation that Zangief obviously wants. But Dalsum also has mix-ups, and those are a little bit less apparent, but you can see them in things like anti-airs and which buttons he presses at particular times. Those are kind of, in a way, mix-ups. So when I come back, I'm going to take a quick break right now. When I come back, we'll delve more into what those the strategy, the tactics, and the mix-ups are of both of these players, and I will see you then. 1 second. Okay. Where do you have the? Okay, cool. So welcome back to Lv3 Focus. Thanks for staying with us. So we're going to be talking about Zangitan versus Buri in this Zangief versus Dalsum Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition 2012 match. And the reason that I picked this is, I have a little bit of familiarity with it. I used to be a competitive Zangief player. That was my main in vanilla. And this match has changed since then, but a lot of the general strategies and the tactics and the mix-ups used are very similar to what they were before. So I know the match well. I've played it a lot. I also used Dalsum as my backup character, so I kind of know it from both sides. And I think that it's personally, I think it's a really, really interesting match. So let's talk a little bit about what Zangitan's strategy is going to be in this match. It's not just going to be get in and go nuts. It's not just crazy go nuts sort of situation. He has particular ideas about what to do, where to be, and that the best case scenario for him is the corner. Like I was saying, that's a hugely advantaged position for him. But even if he's not there, he wants to be within light punch, spinning pile driver distance. If he's not there, he wants to be at a range where he can make Dalsum guess when he does a jump attack. So Zangief can jump and do particular buttons, which are his tactics, that will allow him to get in or deal damage directly. So he has these kind of like three ranges that he wants to be. If he's not in either one, he does not want to be at this particular spot. Let me go over to the game, and we'll talk about this stuff there. Let's back up to the start. And hopefully my mouse is on screen. Yes, it is. Okay, cool. So let me show you what I'm talking about when this gets going. All right, so this range right here is a pretty crappy one for Zangief. It's a range where Dalsum can do things like stand fierce and stand roundhouse and stand medium kick or throw a yoga fire, and Zangief can't really do anything about them. Just has to kind of like guess about how to evade or like which button to press and when, and then block, that kind of thing. Now, if he's a little bit farther, if he's over here, if he's at max range and Dalsum is all the way over here, this is outside of Dalsum's stand fierce range. And it's also a range where yoga fires no longer do chip unless they're EX yoga fires, which is, as Zangief, you got a lot of life. It's not the worst place to be because it means you can't really get chipped unless Dalsum wants to use EX meter. It's not a terrible place. It's obviously not where you want to be, but it's an idea that Zangitan has to be thinking about this right here is better than right here. Now, from Dalsum's perspective, again, yes, he wants to keep Zangief out, but it's not that simple. He wants to be closer than this full screen thing. He does not want to be full screen necessarily. Where he wants to be really is about here, about where the match starts, and that's because, as I was saying, his buttons like stand fierce and stand roundhouse and stand medium kick are all pretty effective, crouching strong in certain situations. He can also throw a yoga fire here, and Zangief, like I was saying, can't really do a ton about it. But it's also a range where if Zangief were to jump, this is where Dalsum's anti-airs are working like gangbusters, or actually maybe a little bit closer in than here. So there's this kind of range where it's like right here to like right here, where Dalsum is pretty strong. Because if Zangief jumps, Sim has back roundhouse or EX blast or jump medium punch, that kind of thing to deal with that. So he has these particular spots, and of course, if he were right here next to Zangief, that is terrible for him. He's going to get his ass kicked. That sucks. He's got to do whatever he can to not be right in these big old mitts. Now, what are the particular tactics that both players are going to be using to get through? Well, if you watched earlier when I was running the match, you could see some examples. So certain jump attacks for Zangitan. When he jumps, he has this kind of like set of options. Jump fierce, jump medium kick, jump down fierce splash, jump short, the down light kick knees. Those kind of things. they all do different things. They have different hitboxes, right? So say he were to jump from a little bit closer than here. There's actually some situations we can see where that happens. Okay, blah. That was obviously a bad jump. He gets, let's see, let's go back to right where he jumped. Yeah, okay, so that's pretty much starting position, maybe a little bit farther out. At that range, Sim has back roundhouse, which is really strong. But Zangief also has a mix-up going. So he tries the jump fierce here. If instead he had tried an empty jump into light punch spinning pile driver, that would have worked, and he would have grabbed Awesome, and that would have been good. So these are his tactics in the air. Particular jump buttons or whiff, and in a way, those are also his mix-ups. So that set of tools, those are the tactics. But then which ones to do, that's where the mix-up comes in. It's this kind of wheel of options anti-air that Dalsum has to play in a ton of matchups. As Sim, you have to know exactly what buttons are good to beat what, and which button to press when to beat what. It's this whole set of mix-ups that you have to be playing as the Sim player whenever the opponent jumps at you. So, also Zangief has things, well, I guess let's just let it run and we'll just keep talking. So he has things like Lariat that can beat normals on the ground for Sim, and that can get through, things like fires and that kind of stuff. There was, as you could see a little bit ago, let's go back. The whole jump down short knees kind of thing, which leaves him right next to Dalsum, and he gets this, he got the whole 360 kick thing going on right there. Yeah. Man, there's got to be like a faster button on this. Is that like a faster, that's like not one frame, right? I don't know. Anyway, so if you see, he goes for it right here. Anyway, whatever. So those are the tactics that he's using, and he's using them in the way that creates mix-ups. He's jumping from particular spots, and the reason that he was at those spots is that he identified them early on, before even the match started, as being where he wanted to stand, as being part of what his general strategy was. In this round, as we saw before, he gets in, and once he's in the corner, which is again exactly where he wants to be, he's able to do these awesome mix-ups. Sim just doesn't really have very good options. He's already stunned, and he's dead. So Sim has to be thinking about Zangief's strategy, and he has to be thinking about his own strategy of where to stand and what to do when he's there, which buttons to use, and which buttons to use. I'm sorry, he has to identify which buttons to use and which specials to move and all that stuff, and then he has to kind of guess when to press them. So as Zangief is trying to get in, he's trying all these different tactics: EX hand, sweep, jump normals, regular green hand, all sorts of crazy crap. And actually, let's stop it right there, because I think this is a pretty interesting mix-up. Blah. So we saw in the first round that when Zangief had this, the jump down short knees, he actually immediately went into the 360 kick, the suplex, and that was enough to really take it to Dalsum. It left him in the corner. One more cross-up and into command grab, and Dalsum was stunned, and that was the round. This time he goes for something different. And that's because, well, he goes for nothing, or maybe it was green hand, and Sim throws him. The reason that he goes for this here is kind of involved in the mix-up. So if you can see in this series right beforehand, he's really trying to chase down Dalsum. Chase. He expects that Dalsum will try to run away again, and so he goes for something like a jump or a green hand or walk forward. It's kind of hard to know what he was going for exactly, but he wasn't going for the command grab because of the mix-up. But it's a smart play by Dalsum, because he doesn't just recognize what the mix-up is, he thinks about what his tactics are and what the strategy is in general. So Zangief really wants to be over here with Sim even further into the corner. As we saw in the first round, when that happens, it's pretty much GG. It's that's it. You get owned. So Dalsum, knowing what a huge part of Zangief's overall game plan is, expects that, well, okay, he's been chasing me down. I know he wants to get me into the corner eventually. Maybe he's going to try to chase me down again. He also knows that as Dalsum, I want to be at about the range that's going to be left after that grab. About here, maybe even a little bit in closer than that. And so it's in Dalsum's interest in a way to keep backdashing, to keep teleporting back as he was in the in the series leading up to this situation. And so he knows these two things about the overall game plans of the two characters. One is get into the corner, rush, rush, rush. The other one is get to a particular range. And so he identifies what Zangitan's incentives are. This is a really important thing in the whole mind games factor that's being used in this kind of like up close mix up scenario. You have to weight whatever it is that you think the mix ups are in the advantage of the overall game plan. Because players more often than not are going to go for the things that will allow them to maximize their game plan. And that's exactly what Zangief was going for here. He wanted to keep chasing. He wanted to keep rushing down. He wanted to get Dalsum into the corner. Sim says, okay, I know that. And so I'm just going to throw you instead, because that's a good option to just create this exact space, this exact scenario right here. I'm not in the corner anymore. And furthermore, I get to take advantage of my knowledge about what your game strategy is. So it's now back down to this kind of mix-up situation in a way. And you can see, let's start right after this this throw again. Go back just a little bit. Right, so we're right here. So this is one tool that Zangief can use to get through things. It's the Lariat. And that'll actually beat some of Dalsum's normals on the ground. It'll beat things on startup like stand roundhouse and stand medium kick. Stuff that Dalsum kind of wants to press. And so he, very smartly, what's his name? Buri just goes for a Yoga Fire, which is not entirely non-committal, but it's less risky for him than throwing at a normal. Because he threw out the Yoga Fire, and because Zangief expected maybe some kind of normal, Sim gets a nice little punish there of the Stand Fierce, and that Stand Fierce allows him to push Zangief back again to whatever exact range he wants. As soon as we're right here, this is a range where Dalsum knows Zangief does not want to be here. This is a bad look. This spot, where as we've been seeing in the last little series here, is a space where where Dalsum can throw Yoga Fires, he can press Stand Fierce on reaction, his buttons work pretty well, his anti-airs even work pretty well, and so Zangief this is intolerable. He can't take this. This is a bad look for him. He's got to do something to get around it. The question is, what's he going to do? Well, here's his guess. He goes for neutral jump. He's just kind of getting over this fire, which is nice. But Buri was expecting a jump toward, and if it had been a jump toward, that preemptive jump strong is a pretty solid option for him to take control of that and knock Zangief down, and now it's great. It's another good situation for Buri. But another reason to do this as Zangief is that an option that Sims often go to in this kind of range is actually the jump back strong. And the jump back strong is because if Zangief had jumped forward, he would have been at about here now. And that's kind of pushing the limits of where this jump strong is good. Jump strong is awesome right here. This is a sick hitbox right here. Here, there's pretty much nothing but arm fat. That range sucks. So he wants to be taking advantage of this awesome little thing right here. So if that had been jump back strong, that would have been awesome for Zangief, because then Zangief is at this full range distance, what I was talking about at the start. And that's not what ends up happening, but just imagine that Dalsum is all the way back here and Zangief's back is also to the corner over here. This is a space where Zangief can walk forward a little bit at least, or he can jump at a range that Dalsum can't really do much about it. So it's actually a way to kind of build some space to further his game plan. It's a particular tactic that he's trying to use in this kind of like jump wheel of options anti-air mix-up that he's forcing Dalsum to guess in. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little bit of a break here, and after this, I want to talk a little bit more about what exactly it is that allows Zangief to end up winning. Obviously, this is not really a huge spoiler. Hopefully, you were watching earlier on when we saw the whole game, and Zangief ends up winning He takes the third round. He loses the second round. He takes the third one. We'll watch it again after the break, and then we'll go over why exactly Zangitan was able to win this match, whether he should have been able to win the match, and then why he does. So we will be right back. All right, cool. So welcome back. Let's go back to the match that we've been talking about, which is Zangitan, the Zangief player, versus Brio, the Dhalsim player. We've been kind of going over this match as a way to understand the 4 things that I want to be talking about in general in fighting games, which is the strategy, the tactics, the mix-up, and then the execution. Execution, this is not a big execution heavy matchup. So that's not a big deal here, but the other 3 are very, very important. The overall game plan is huge. This is a match where things change gigantically. Well, let's just watch the whole rest of the match. Things change gigantically depending on where you are on screen, on what you're forcing your opponent to do, and what your opponent has forced you into. So we can see in that round. After this, one little nice mix-up. If you recall, Dhalsim goes for the throw right here. After that, he dominates. There's nothing that Zangief has, or that Zangief does, I should say, that gets him out of this bad situation. He's caught there, and he never really manages to get out. Each time that it comes to a mix-up, Dhalsim picks a particular tactic that's good for him, and he takes it. So right now it's 1-1 in the rounds. This is only a 3-round match. I'm not making you watch any more than just this one game. This game is going to be Zangief's. This is going to be Zangitan's. And, it's going to be interesting to see why it's Zangief's. What he does exactly that allows him to take it. This is not a great matchup for Dhalsim, actually. It's considered a losing match for Zangief. It's not a terrible match, but it's a match that Dhalsim is thought to have control in. And you can kind of see why. He starts at a range that's good for him. What we talked about earlier at the very start. Okay, so there's the end, and blam, you're done. So look, let's check it out at the very, very start. Look at this. This spot right here, this is Dhalsim all day. This is exactly, well, more or less exactly where he wants to be. He wants to be, maybe here or something like that, maybe here. But he wants to be pretty much there, and so he starts off at a spot that's awesome for him. And it can be hard for Zangief to ever get in and ever get mix-ups going and ever get the up-close mix-ups going, the damage going, the stun going. But Zangief manages to take it anyway. So let's talk about why that happens. Gief has a particular idea of what he wants to be doing in this game. And you can see it even right at the very, very start. He just starts off with walking. He's like, you know what? I understand that round 1 fight is crappy for me. This is a sucky range. So I'm going to walk up a little bit. Even after that fire, he's not exactly where he was before. He's at a range where he at least believes that he can go for this kind of like jump fierce or jump medium kick or down short knees whiff into light punch SPD kind of mix up. And so it's a very smart move by him to play this card right at the start of the round. I'm just going to walk. I'm not going to be too crazy about things. I'm just going to do what I can to get to a range that's good for me. And so he's got this great understanding of where exactly he wants to be on screen, what exactly he wants his situation to be, and what he doesn't want his situation to be. He doesn't want to be at particular spots on screen. Now he's already in the corner. This is already like 10 seconds in the round. He's going to go for the stun right here. This is a super quick round. As it often is, if Zangief gets in, that can be pretty much it. As the Dhalsim player, especially if you're in the corner, if you guess wrong twice, that's lights out. You're better luck next time. You're boned. So let's see what happens in the second round. After having seen that Zangief has this great idea of what he wants to be doing, and he's got this great set of reads about the mix-ups that he's going to be employing, the particular tactics that he's using. He knows like the back of his hand. He knows exactly which buttons he can press at which ranges. You see right there. This is so smart. Just this jump. This little jump. Things like this. I'm so happy about this. This is so rad. Just this little limited, tiny kind of thing. Look at this jump. How smart. He does nothing. Now, if he had pressed a button, if he had kind of let himself air it out with a jump medium punch, jump fierce, something like that, this stand roundhouse is going to eat him up, and you're going to take damage, and he's going to get pushed back farther, and maybe he even gets pushed back into that Yoga Fire and takes damage from that. And that would suck, because he's left with not only a little bit of damage, that wouldn't have been huge on Zangief. This is not a ton of life for him. But if he had lost that, it's really more about the positioning, because what's ultimately important for him, yeah, it's the life, but the way that he deals his damage is to be at a particular spot. So he's got to always keep that in mind. But he knows his tactics so well, and he's got the whole Wheel of Options mix-up thing down so well that he builds up all that space. Now he's like right here. This is a crappy range for Sim. It's dangerous. It's getting close to where he doesn't want to be. And so Sim throws out this, relatively fast back short, one of his faster far normals, to try to take control of the situation, to be like, hey, it's not over yet. You're not right into me. Not quite yet. He gets worried, though. And it's so smart by Zangief. Zangief's most dangerous button is to ward. Just holding that forward button on the stick or on the pad or the hitbox or whatever, the keyboard, I don't know. They're all fine. That's so dangerous as a Dhalsim player. You're worried about that, because you know that if Zangief just keeps walking up to you, there's going to be a range where you're boned. And you can't be there. And so he goes for the jump back. He thinks, man, I got to do something to get out of this particular spot. So already Zangief is kind of forcing this idea on him. He's forcing his strategy on Buribrio by using his tactics correctly, by guessing right on the mix-ups, and yeah, by doing the right thing, or by doing what he wants to do in terms of his execution. Again, execution not super important in this matchup, just because neither character is super combo heavy and don't have particularly hard inputs, but it's still important in that if you don't have execution, if Zangief presses the wrong button here, he could be left in a bad situation. So mildly important, not huge. The other things are the more important ones. So Zangief is taking advantage of this situation right now. He just at the very start, that walk toward, then that neutral jump. He got into a range that was dangerous for Dhalsim, and so Dhalsim tries to jump back, and that leaves him in the corner, which sucks. You see another one of the Wheel of Options anti-airs right here. This is another little mix-up. So if this had been, some button that touches Dhalsim like a jump fierce, a far fierce, that back fierce right there, even though you don't see Dhalsim's use it very often, it's actually got a pretty decent hitbox on it, and so that would have beaten the far jump fierce. It doesn't happen. Zangief doesn't expect him to whiff this back fierce. If he had, he might have done something like a light punch SPD to abuse the situation. So now Zangief has played his advantage super well. He's used all of his tactics and his mix-ups and his overall strategy, his idea of what to do really well, and now Sim is dangerously close. If he gets here, that's it. We saw it in the previous round. If you get here, that sucks. It's so crappy. You don't know really what you can do to get out of there. And so instead, he's got to put his battle up right here. This is the last-ditch effort. If he doesn't have this is pretty much the last stand. And so he sticks that back medium kick, which is nice. It pushes Zangief back. A stand short again. Another little pushback. He's fighting for space right here. Standing medium kick. He's fighting. If this had been a stand short, even a stand fierce maybe, this sweep might have hit it. And so instead, he goes for the fireball. This is, again, another little set of the mix-ups on the ground. These particular tactics that are being used in furtherance of the overall idea. As soon as he sees that the fire hits, he sticks out another one. He's looking for jump here, and that's really unfortunate for him. That jump allows this walk to dash up. It doesn't really allow the EX screen hand, other than the fact that now he's in range for EX screen hand and the block afterward. But if he hadn't done this little jump strong. Let's see, let's go la 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 la. Man, the Mac. If he hadn't done this, he's on the ground and he's able to take control of this awesome horizontal range right here. Stand Fierce and Yoga Flames and Stand Roundhouses and all that good stuff. But instead, Zangief is reading him really well. He knows that there's going to be a jump medium punch coming, and he can't do crap about this range up here if he were to jump. And so instead, he just walks forward and he dashes up, thinking that, hey, there's not going to be a button that comes up fast enough to dissuade me from doing this. Now I'm here, and there's nothing Dhalsim can do about this. He pretty much has to block this. If he had jumped, and actually I think maybe later on, yeah, we see he does jump. You can see what the punishment for that is. Oh, there's 600 stun. Actually, that was counter hit. And so that was a lot of stun, which is really dangerous. But let's go back here. You see Zangief, even in the second round, even though he ends up losing this round, he gets Dhalsim to the corner. And this is where he wants to be. He's fine. These 2 meters, who cares? Because it's not about the meter. It's about the positioning in this match. It's about the mix-ups. It's about using particular tactics like this. This is definitely a strong tactic. That's very scary. And as Zangief is yelling at him right here, Dalsum is just kind of, I don't know what to do. If he were to press a button right here, he risks getting popped with the focus, counter hit, lots of stun, lots of damage. He's left in the corner still. It sucks. Instead, he goes for the jump, which he knows sucks too. He knows this is a bad option. The teleport over here now, Dalsum has nothing going. If he's in the air here after he's already used his teleport, none of his buttons matter at all to Zangief. Back roundhouse is okay, but he just doesn't have enough time. Oh, actually, it looks like that's what he's trying for. Yeah, that's why he gets counter hit. This is actually a back roundhouse in the air. And instead, it's this. There's a ton of stun, a lot of damage. And so that's a bad thing to have happen to you. Just because he was put in the corner, he loses this life. On the other hand, Dalsum was willing to pay that life in furtherance of his overall game plan. Now he gets to do this. He gets to get away. He's trying to run. Trying. Now this is the situation we were talking about before where, he gets the throw, and he finally does get the situation he's been looking for the whole time. He gets to take advantage of it. Yay. Ends up taking this round. But both rounds so far, we've seen really good stuff from Zangief where he knows what his game plan is, he knows what his tactics are, and he knows the mix-up really, really well. In that series right there, that was a great set of ground, distance, footsies, mix-ups kind of thing going on. Dalsum finally gets it. I love this opening again. It's the same opening, the same exact opening that Zangief used in the previous round. In the first round, which is just, I'm gonna walk at you. Check this out. I'm gonna hold toward, and you're just gonna have to do something to make me not want to do it. In the first round, he blocked on reaction to a fire, and then he ended up getting it anyway. But that was a good option for Dalsum to try to at least take control. Zangief sees the dash back instead, and he's like, "All right, you're gonna give up that space like that? All right, man. I'm gonna get in just a little bit more." And even though it's not a ton, he gets popped here. Even though it's not a ton, the difference between being right here and being back here, these like 3 squares, that's huge in this match. That can be a gigantic tell of who has the better strategy, the better game plan, and who is living up to that game plan the best. Who's doing the things that will allow him to end up winning. And so now he's closer to Dalsum. He's willing to take those risks in getting in. He does it again. He's guessing right on the wheel of options anti-air. And now he has Dalsum really into the corner. You're getting command grabbed, and it's not long until he's dead right now. Follows him up again. He's got great reads here. And pretty close. I think he just gets SPD. Yeah, that's it. So you could see it's just kind of like a set of guesses that he makes. But looking at them as just guesses is stupid, because that's not all they are. They're not like uninformed guesses. They're very smartly calculated guesses. And the reason that they're smart is that they're in accordance with knowledge of what his game plan is and with knowledge of what Dalsum's game plan is. He knows exactly what Sim wants to be doing, where Sim wants to stand, and what it means if Buri were to be able to force Zangief into that kind of a situation that Buri wants. He also knows exactly what it means for him to stand at certain ranges and how to get there and how to take advantage of that. And that knowledge is enough for him to overcome this matchup and end up taking it and squat on Sim's face and end it. And that's it. Geef wins all day. So you can see that these 4 things that I'm talking about, the strategy, the tactics, the mix-up, and the execution, this dude, he was just better at it today than Buri. He was awesome at the strategy. He knew all of his tactics down pat. He had the mix-ups right. His mix-ups were informed by overall strategy, and he did everything he wanted to do. There was actually one moment in this match where I kind of think that maybe like Sim didn't do what he wanted to do. Let's see. I think it was just before this throw over here. Yeah. So it's like he teleports like right here. Like probably not. It's probably not what he wanted to do. He probably wanted to teleport back here. It doesn't end up mattering all that much in the end, because if you recall, this is the round that he ends up winning. But that's kind of an execution error, and it's kind of also an insight into the set of errors that he makes in the tactics and the mix-ups and the strategy and all that stuff. He's in each aspect, he's not as good as Zangitan in this game right here. And maybe he is overall. I don't know. I got a lot of respect for Mahou Shoujo Zangitan. He's been one of the top geefs since early on in vanilla Street Fighter 4, and definitely a player that I used to model my own game plan after. But, you know, maybe Buri's really good. I don't know. But in this particular match, it doesn't work out for him, and that's why. So that is it's a breakdown of that particular match, and I hope you can see how important each one of those 4 factors are, or is. They're all really, really important, and if you don't have one of them, you might get screwed. And if you don't have a good grasp on the overall strategy, you're gonna get screwed, because if you don't have the strategy, then it's hard to have your mix-ups be informed well enough to have them pay off. And if you don't have the strategy, that probably also means that you don't have the tactics down as well as you might otherwise have. It's just kind of like an indicator, not necessarily causal, but it's definitely kind of a correlation there. It's kind of the same thing with the execution. We could see the only even arguable execution error in this match is the teleport that Buri screwed up, probably screwed up anyway. And in addition to having worse execution, he also had the worst tactics, the worst mix-up tactics and strategy. So that's the breakdown here. You can go check this match out. I got it on Yoga Flame 24's channel. When I get back, I'm going to talk a little bit about watching fighting game videos, where to do that, and how to go about doing it. Spoiler, it involves the things that I've been talking about so far. So I'll see you after this. Enjoy this rad title card. Okay, cool. So welcome back to Level 3 Focus. My name is Ultra David. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the matchup breakdown between Zangitan and Buri Brio. I think it's a really fun match. I'm definitely biased because I like Zangief and I like Dalsum. Those are my 2 mains when I played. And so obviously I'm going to like this match. No surprise, but I hope you've enjoyed it too. So talking about enjoying videos, it's really important to figure out how to watch a match. And this can be important for a lot of reasons. One, it's just fun. You kind of get more out of it the more you put into it. That is to say, if you take the time to like break down and really understand why things are happening, then you're going to get more enjoyment out of it. It's going to be more fun to watch, more interesting. But in addition to that, it'll be more productive for you personally. If you understand, I should say the more matchups you understand and the more you think about it, the better you're going to be playing when you yourself are playing. And it's not a perfect predictor, of course, because things like nerves and the ability to recall things immediately, kind of like offhand, that's kind of a separate skill set. But just knowing what to do, or seeing it done and having thought about it, that can be really, really helpful for your own game. So when you're watching stuff, don't just kind of like watch it and be like, oh, it's a nice match. Oh, okay, he wins. He did that thing and some stuff happened and then he won and it was interesting and enjoyable and rah-rah. But think about it like as kind of like a text. And think about it like as something that has stuff to be gleaned from. There are things in each match that can help you learn, even if you've seen a match 1,000 times. I've seen this match before. I've seen Zangief versus Dalsum. I've played it a ton, but every time I watch it, I learn a little bit more about what the particular spacing is, or maybe a new tactic that I haven't seen before, like maybe an option select or a particular button pressed at a particular time, that kind of thing. I've been noticing more lately that Zangiefs have been going for more like jump strongs and jump jabs, the little choppy chop, and that's not something that I used to do. So that's cool to see that there's kind of like this progression in the particular tactics being used and when and what the mix-ups are and all that stuff. So it's really fun for me to be able to keep on top of that stuff, but it's also really important and productive that I know all those things. And even though I'm not really playing much anymore, it's good to be able to, from my perspective at least, to have this info so I can like commentate better or just play better in my casuals. So think about all that stuff that we've been talking about when you watch a video. Think about what the strategy is for both players, where they want to be on screen, which situations they want to be in and don't want to be in, think about what the particular tactics are for furthering that, to getting there, to not getting there, to not getting forced into some crappy situation. Then think about like what the mix-ups are, like what the various options are, but then how they're used and when they're used, and most importantly why they're used. And then think a little bit about the execution. That's really something more to practice personally. It does come in some ways. So if you don't know that a button, this comes in, I would say more in Marvel all the time. If you don't know what a command is for a move, you're not going to know really why it's being used in a particular spot as well. If it's some kind of like funky command, or maybe it allows you to do an option select that you would not otherwise be able to do, or whatever. You have to know that stuff at least. At least be familiar with that. So think about these matches critically. That is to say, don't just look at them passively. Be constantly thinking. You gotta always have your head on you when you're thinking about, or when you're watching fighting games, not just when you're playing, because it's when you're watching stuff and thinking about it as kind of like a third person that you can understand things. At least for me, you understand things a little bit more than if you had just been doing it yourself. And so that's really why, to me, watching videos is so important. And again, always make sure to do it critically. You got to always be thinking. And so the question is then, where do you watch? Well, hopefully you're watching streams all the time. Nowadays, there's more media than ever, which is awesome. Time was you had to like get a VHS and you had to like trade and like go on like some website and be like, can you send me the VHS? So here's my address, and it would take forever, and sometimes you would never get it, and it would suck. Or maybe you had to buy a DVD. That's what Evo used to do, and some other tournaments used to do. But now it's out there constantly, all over the place. Just go to YouTube, go to Twitch, and you'll find stuff all the time. And so that's what I do. When I have downtime, I go to watch videos all the time. I do it for Street Fighter, for AE, I should say, 2012 even. I do it for Marvel 3. I do it for KOF and now Soul Calibur. And I even do it still for games like Super Turbo and Third Strike, even though I don't want to admit in public that I'm still watching Third Strike. I totally do. I totally still watch. Because it's fun to keep up with stuff, and the more games that you know, this is something that maybe we can talk about in a later episode. The more games you know, the better you'll be at each one of them, because each one of them teaches particular things. And so what I do is I go to if there's a stream, obviously, with Level Up or Team Spooky or I Play Winner or one of the many other streams that are going on nowadays. I always make sure to watch if I'm around. I'm stream monstering constantly, and I don't know who this guy Ultra David is on these streams. Some stream monster who stole my name. I don't know. So I'm constantly in there trolling, but what I'm really doing is watching these matches and thinking about this kind of stuff. As far as YouTube goes, of course, all those streamers have their own YouTube sites. Level Up Series and Team Spooky and I Play Winner are all really, really good for the tournament stuff, but there are also specialists in particular games. So the one that I got this match off of today was Yoga Flame 24. It's a guy that I watch all the time. He puts up AE 2012 matches all the time, constantly on there. What he does is he goes to Xbox Live and sees what the fun matches are, and he kind of pays attention, and whatever the good ones are, he takes them and he puts them online, and I find that's really helpful. You can also follow, if you are a fan of Third Strike, you can follow the Shend on there. That's pretty much like the dude in Third Strike, and has been for a long time. He's like the most dedicated uploader. It's ridiculous. He is a really, really good source for that stuff. If you want to see kind of a more like a smattering of stuff, I go to SMOI 2010. I never know how to pronounce that. SMOAI 2010. So SMOI, I don't know, has AE and he has Marvel 3 from Japan, I should say. AE and Marvel 3 and KOF and Soul Calibur and just a whole bunch of other random games in addition to that. I make sure that I spend some time going over videos. It's kind of my job now because I'm a commentator and stuff. And it was kind of my job before because I was a player and stuff. But it's also just really cool to see how things change and, maybe see a little bit of a new tactic that you haven't seen before, like a different take on a mix-up that you haven't seen before. I see that all the time because the games are constantly evolving. And when I do, I always make sure to think about it critically. Okay, I think that's going to be it for the night, at least for level 3. Oh, right. That's going to be it for me tonight. Hope you've enjoyed this. You can follow us. My name is Ultra Dave. You can follow me at Ultra David on Twitter. James is at jchensor. And follow us both at UltraChen TV. That's going to be the Twitter where we put up whatever it is that we're doing. And for example, earlier today, I put on the match that I was going to break down tonight, and I hope that people have seen it in advance and kind of thought about it a little bit more. The more I do this, and maybe you kind of understand how to break down a match better, I think it'd be really cool to hear what people have to say about the match that I put up some hours in advance. Think about it and tweet to us at UltraChen TV about what it is that you think we're going to talk about, or like what you want to see talked about, what you don't understand, what you think is really cool, all that kind of stuff. That would be really, really cool. Of course, check us out on YouTube. I always put up these videos the very next day, so tomorrow check us out at youtube.com/UltraChenTV, and I'll have the replays up there. Or if it's already tomorrow and you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for watching on YouTube. Also, facebook.com/UltraChenTV. Please like us there. It's a place that we can talk about things. It's kind of more of like a forum, in the comments. I find that that's really a cool place to be doing it. Thanks again for watching. If you were watching Flo's stream before, make sure that you go back, because that dude is about to get his ass kicked again by Sonic, and it's going to go on for hours.
It's Boshi time.
It's Boshi time, yeah, for sure. So that's twitch.tv/EG_Flo. It'll be crazy and super frustrating, and maybe Batman will call in. We'll see. Also, check us out tomorrow. Tuesday nights, we do our joint show together that is as yet unnamed. It's the Tuesday show, whatever. That'll be, more of a collaboration of course, James and I will be both on there. We break down matches, we commentate stuff, we talk about history, we talk about strategy, all that kind of stuff. So please check us out. And again, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.